I love elections. It's because I get to vote. We live in a country where we regularly change governments and we don't kill each other doing that.
We really want to address the discrimination in intersex and trans people face.
Must be a bit lonely being independent. Although, thanks to ICAC, there's a lot more of us now suddenly under CrossFit. I am going to push for further anti-discrimination protections, particularly in schools, for teachers and for students. There's also indeed a lot more to do in the space of trans law reform.
What we saw was a number of opportunities arise over the last 4 years, ones that we didn't necessarily expect to develop when there was a change of government.
It's been an absolute privilege working with this group.
I do believe that we need to deal with the anti-discrimination legislation in New South Wales. It's been there from 1977. It's very clunky, it has old language, it excludes a lot of people, it does not reflect what's going on federally, and we need to have another look at exemptions, absolutely. Our Pacific neighbours are killing people for being gay. It is illegal, they are putting in the same sort of laws that we're seeing in Africa. We need to stand up for them.
Well, I would say the campaign for marriage equality has bring out some really strong supporters of our community. It's caused Australians to have a conversation about their LGBTI friends, colleagues, and that conversation has gone in the direction that they should not be treated any differently in any areas of the law, whether it's a marriage act or others.
It's going to happen. It is inevitable.
72%. 10 years ago it was 38%. That means that 5 million Australians in 10 years have changed their minds. That gives me great hope. It makes no sense that you're covered in some areas in relation to discrimination law if it's a federal issue, but if you then go to a state service that doesn't cover it. At the very least, that's what needs to happen, and we need to look much more closely at what's happening with exemptions.
In terms of trans people as well, there's similar discrimination that pans out. The requirement of surgery before a sex affirmation procedure can happen is just ridiculous and unacceptable.
I would like to see intersex and trans law reform be a priority of ours in the next Parliament.
To be honest, I think there's going to be things that are thrown up within that review that we haven't even been able to predict yet.
But I would also just caution that not all religious service providers are bad. In fact, some of them are really welcoming and passionate about our community.
We have a $65 billion budget, and there are a number of areas which we can actually not fund. I'll give you a couple of examples. At the moment, we give tax deductions up to $400 million a year to the racing industry, up to $400 million to the pokies industry. These are not needed. This is the money that needs to go into services that we're talking about today.
I think particularly within the trans and intersex space that we do have a lot more work to do.
We're asking people in all these areas to move outside their comfort space. You're asking them to, in a sense, go into areas where they have no basic understanding. If you look at your politicians, they're generally male, white and middle class, and their experience reflects that. I think most people are basically decent, so once they're educated, it's fairly easy. I don't think it matters which party you're talking about in that regard.
There is already a huge grassroots movement of young people who in their own schools who are organising for themselves in public and private and Catholic schools. It's been an absolute privilege to be involved with that group. I'd like us to try and find some money to actually help them get even better. I think they're doing a lot of the job themselves, and we underestimate the phenomenal change that they're pushing for, often in schools where it is far more hostile.
There isn't in a lot of these areas a simple answer. You cannot legislate outcomes in some of these areas.
I'm a Muslim, and here I am, the strongest advocate for LGBTI rights. We have called for actually a minister for the prevention of domestic and family violence, because we understand that at the moment it's dealt with quite disparately in a number of departments.
The incidence of domestic violence within this community is similar to the general population, but astonishingly the reporting rate is about 3 times lower than the general population.
The important thing was to get the extinguishment legislation through.
Because Alex was very much in favour of the apology, and frankly, I was one of those that talked him out of it at the time, and I was probably wrong. Now, it's interesting, Herald actually, I don't think has ever apologised for what it did. And, you know, one of the things is there's a lot in our society that are responsible for past wrongs, not only governments. And I think it's fair to hold governments to account, but there are other groups that also need to reflect upon their past approaches, including the Sydney Morning Herald.
I think that when we see where we've come from in terms of gay and lesbian law reform, I think it's clear from tonight, and all of us know that transgender and intersex law reform is where it is next. Labor's actually said that 16 years on, drug taking has changed, we're facing different issues. It's time for us to revisit that process, and that's what we want to do. One of the first things we do if we're elected in March is let's have another drug summit.
This war on drugs, we know has completely failed, so we need to come back and look at harm minimization approaches.
Well, that was a very polite panel, wasn't it? I wish politics could be more like that.